Welcome to Sing, Play, Move, Exploring Your Creative Side, a course module offered under the course umbrella of Composition and Creativity by the folks at musictherapyworks.com. My name is Mary Jane Landacre, and I'm the instructor for the Composition and Creativity course. And I wanted to thank you for taking some time today to really work on exploring your creative side and coming up with your ideas of how to be creative in a way that allows you to be more creative with yourself, with your clients, and with other people and other aspects of your life. Today we're going to do a little bit of exploration. You need to have an open mind about this, and at the end of this we're going to have a couple of different tasks for you to do as part of your creative journey. In addition to our regular overarching learner objectives, this particular presentation has two additional learner objectives. The first is that you will complete a learning inventory and a multiple intelligence inventory to examine your own personal learning skill. And this is covered under the board certification domains of 2.5.Z and 4.A.1. And then the second is that participants will establish 4 personal goals addressing creativity and the subsequent development of therapeutic music experiences, specifically for your clients. And this is covered under CBMT 1.D.6, 1.D.9, 2.A.2, and 2.A.5. And so by the end of this presentation, hopefully you will have completed both of these within the 50 minutes allotted for this course time. If not, don't worry about it. And if it takes you a lot less time, don't worry about that either. But those are the two things that you're going to do. And in order to complete this, you're going to complete a worksheet that will encompass these two things. That will be your demonstration element. So by the end of this presentation, you will have completed the course worksheet, and that will be what you submit to me as the instructor of this course to provide proof of your completion of this course. So to complete this course module, you are going to complete the demonstration element. And for this course, the demonstration element is simply the Sing, Play, Move, Explore Your Creative Side worksheet. So when you have finished that, you're going to submit that to contact us at musictherapyworks.com to get the link to the course evaluation. And there will be more information about that at the end of the presentation. For this course, you need the following material. You need a computer with internet access, you need a printer and paper, and you need a pen and pencil, and optional cat-free environment. Mine's never totally cat-free. So we're going to talk about exploring your creativity, and some of the things that you need to know about creativity are that it's a very broad term. It encompasses many things. You can be creative as a writer. You can be creative as a cook. You can be creative as a nature guide who goes out and finds new hikes and new experiences for people to do. One of the difficulties about talking about creativity, especially when you're talking to a group of eclectic people like music therapists are, is that what I find to be creative for me, and something that is affirming, that is self-care, that allows me to refresh my need for making something for my clients and for myself, that may not at all work for somebody else, and that's okay. That's kind of the way it goes. One of the things to understand about creativity is that the only right way to create is what makes you feel happy and what makes you get engaged. And I think for me, creativity is an opportunity to explore, to stretch out from my comfort zone into places that I may not necessarily be as comfortable. And that's what makes me feel happy, and that's what makes me engaged in my process. And so that's creativity that is right for me. And again, there is no wrong way to create. You need to find your way into creative expression and experiences. And you know, if I tell you that my way of creating is to write blog posts and you try it and it doesn't work for you, that's okay. You don't have to do things the same way that other people do them. So why do we think about creativity as music therapists? And I came up with a couple of different reasons. The first is that the music therapy is a creative experience for the client. Just by engaging with music, we have creative thought, expression, and production that's happening. People, by just attending to the music in their environment, have some sort of investment in what is happening. And also, we know as music therapists that by having music present in the environment, there are often psychological, physiological, and emotional changes that occur with people. That's why we have background music in television shows and movies, and that's why we have background music that goes along with commercials, is that we have that foundation, that scientific foundation, that we know that music engages the human being in some way. By interacting with and within the music, so by listening, actively listening to the music, or by being one of the people who's creating the music, the client has opportunities to create something that has meaning to him or her. And again, we go back to the idea of right and wrong, and how some things are considered right, but in a therapeutic creative session, there is no wrong way to interact. And we as the music therapists, we are the ones who help that client find that musical expression. We guide them through it, we provide them the tools, we provide them with the opportunities. And that leads us to our own creativity, because if we're encouraging a client to be creative, we also need to be able to find our own creativity. One of the reasons you can't always find a pre-existing therapeutic music experience, and TME, therapeutic music experience, is what I use to term everything that I bring into a session for a client to do. It's just a term that I use, so pay attention because it'll be coming up quite often. But you can't always find a pre-existing therapeutic music experience that talks about how we use the bathroom correctly, or about how we have to handle our feelings of trauma, or what we're going to go through when we go through a medical procedure. And so because of that, we need to be able to create that to help support the client the way the client needs to be supported, and to help the client get towards their goal and objective. Coming up with creative therapeutic music experiences is a part of the job, whether it's, encouraging clients to improvise, improvising yourself, coming up with set scripted therapeutic music experiences. It really is part of the job. And creativity is something that we need to practice on a regular basis, because without practice, creativity becomes stagnant, and you find yourself in a creative block doing the same things with clients over and over and over again. And at that point, it's time to break out of your rut. So there's a reason why I'm talking about creativity in regards to us as music therapists, and it's very specific that we need to link our creativity to our music therapy work. And that's one of the end goals of this particular course module, is that at the end of this you'll have some ways to explore your creative side in ways that will purposefully benefit the clients that you're working with. When we are being purposeful with creativity, it allows us to benefit ourselves. Creativity is something that I think is very good for us as self-care practitioners, is the opportunity and the responsibility to create new things and to express ourselves in ways that we may not necessarily do as just a part of our regular day. I find that as a music therapist, the majority of the things that I'm doing in my music therapy clinic are for the benefit of my clients, which is as it should be. My clients are there specifically to gain from music therapy experiences. But that means that I'm giving all the time and I'm not receiving as much as I might necessarily need. But being purposeful in my creativity allows me to refresh and renew that feeling of having energy and being creative. So being purposeful in our creativity benefits ourselves. Being purpose in our creativity can benefit our therapeutic relationships with our clients as well. If I'm going into a music therapy session feeling the effects of compassion fatigue, feeling the effects of I just can't help another person today, then I'm not going to be the best therapist I can be for my client. I'm not going to be able to necessarily focus in on what the client needs because I am very self-involved at the moment. And so being purposeful in my creativity can help me inspire creativity in others, it can also help me actually relate to my clients a little bit more strongly. Being creative is a way to process events that happen in sessions. One of the things that I do is I write, and I write journals, I write blogs, I write blog posts, I write all kinds of things. And that really helps me work through situations that happened in therapy, situations that occurred outside of therapy but had an effect on my life as a music therapist. I am not somebody who verbally processes easily at all. I'm somebody who does much better processing in a visual manner. So either making a painting or a picture, or writing a blog post and really looking through, developing a flow chart. That helps me the best. And that's one of the things that helps me helps me process what goes on in my music therapy clinic. Being creative is also a good way to inspire events in therapy. You know, if I'm engaged in something, if I'm engaged in a creative improvisation where I'm doing just some basic singing and just enjoying making sounds, that may inspire a therapeutic music experience that will help a client move towards his or her therapeutic goals. And so by making creativity a regular part of my routine, I have then an opportunity to help pull the lessons and the experiences that I'm getting from that creative process into my interactions with my clients. And that helps to strengthen what my clients and I are doing therapeutically. So as a part of your demonstration element, the first thing that you're going to do is take a multiple intelligence inventory. And if you've never heard of the concept of multiple intelligences before, it was developed by a gentleman whose last name is Gardner, and he proposed that people do not all learn the same way. I mean, he wasn't the originator of that idea. That's something that's been around for as long as education has gone around. But he really did try to investigate different ways that people learned. And so this inventory that you're going to be taking is one that I find to be very fascinating, and it's pretty quick, but it really supports the idea that there are many different ways to experience the world and to learn about the world. And so you're going to be answering questions that ask how you respond and react to various situations or happenings, how you spend some of your time, how you like to create. And all of these things comes up with the idea that there are some ways that I learn that are different from how you learn. And there are some ways that you learn that are different from how the next person learns. But that we all have strengths in at least one form of learning that allows us to comprehend the world. And the one thing that I really like about the inventory that you're going to be taking for this demonstration element is that it doesn't just focus on things like visual learning, kinesthetic learning, auditory learning, but really goes into a little bit of a deeper understanding of ourselves as creative beings and as learning beings as well. So on the next slide, you'll see the link, and you'll get to pause, and if you don't pause, you'll have to listen to a little ukulele music. And take some time to take the inventory and pay attention to what that inventory tells you about yourself, because it has a direct influence on how we create. So now I'm going to encourage you to pause to take the multiple intelligence assessment on the Edutopia site here. This is a 25-question test that will allow you to kind of explore a little bit about your own creative possibilities. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when you have finished taking the inventory. I would suggest, just for future reference, that in addition to taking the inventory, you also print out your results and the explanation pages that will help you kind of understand what they're talking about with each one of these intelligences. So at this point right now, you can press pause to take the learning inventory, or you can stick with it, and I'll give you a little bit of really bad ukulele music to keep you occupied. We're going to do about 30 seconds of ukulele music while we have this pause. So enjoy taking the assessments, multiple intelligence assessment. told you it was really bad ukulele music. Sorry, still learning. Okay, so now that you've taken the multiple intelligence assessment, you've found what Edutopia thinks is your strongest intelligences, the way you learn the best. And this is kind of a learning styles inventory, but it's also a way you experience the world the best. And so look at that and see what kinds of things fall under each of the intelligence styles that you scored the highest in. It's kind of fascinating to discover what this test seems to think about us. As you're doing that, get the worksheet. You can open up that worksheet. It's on this page, so you can find the link really easily. You can also print it out if you prefer to use paper and pencil. Brainstorm several things that interest you, and for this, don't necessarily look at the multiple intelligence assessment results. Look at yourself and think about, if you had money was no object, what would you love to try? What would you love to do? Would you be interested in learning how to crochet? Would you be interested in writing a novel? Would you be interested in going to musicals? Would you be interested? What are the things that really interest you? These do not have to be music. These do not have to be creative endeavors necessarily. These do not have to be you doing something. But what are our activities? What are things that interest you? You're also going to then look at the multiple intelligences survey and identify the areas that are strengths for you. And what are things that you've got on your brainstorm sheet that work within those intelligences? You know, if you're somebody who is a visual learner and you like to paint, that makes sense. So identify those areas that are strengths, and then think about how you can use those intelligences. And then do the same thing with your areas where you're not as strong. What types of creative things can you do in those areas that will help you try new things? And then pause this here to complete the questions worksheet. More bad ukulele music. It's all in the key of C because I haven't learned any of the chords yet. So you've completed the multiple learning styles assessment and multiple intelligences assessment. You have spent some time brainstorming ways you can be creative. You have identified those areas where you are strong, where maybe you aren't quite as strong. So what does this have to do with being a music therapist? Let me see if this makes sense to you. By being purposefully creative, by sitting down specifically to create something, to produce something that is new, to alter something that you already have into a new use or a new situation, it allows us to explore different aspects of our lives. You can set out with the purpose of creating a sculpture that illustrates how you felt doing therapy during your sessions during the week. You can purposely set out to write 500 words about a specific music therapy topic. You can do something that has absolutely nothing to do with being a music therapist, a way to check in and to pull in your own self-care needs and abilities and to identify those things. And it is also a way to escape that professional life completely. When I'm in my craft room engaged in card making, I am not thinking about music therapy sessions. I'm thinking about the people I'm going to send the cards to. That allows me to explore different aspects of my life. Purposeful creativity gets us out of that music therapy environment, gives us an opportunity to engage in something that is not work related, which any music therapist will tell you is important. Having that separation between work time and home time or personal time is really important. And so having that creative opportunity helps to enrich our lives away from the music therapy world. Now, one of the things that's really nice for me especially is that I don't have to use music as part of my creative routine. I have always found that music in the environment tends to be very distracting for me. Don't get me wrong, I love making music. I love being part of a choir. I love playing my instrument with other people. But I don't really consider music part of my creative routine. I think I consider music more of a job that I do. Excuse me. I don't have to be musical when I'm engaged in the things that I love to do, the blog writing, the form development. How silly is that? But making forms is a way for me to be creative. It's also a way for me to enhance my professional world. I don't have to be musical when I go to a paper crafting class. I don't even have to share with anybody that I am musical. It's okay to identify and to embrace those extra parts of my life. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use music as your creativity routine. I mean, honestly, I find that I have to be very creative with music in my therapeutic world. And so I do that quite often, but it's not the first thing I'm going to do if I'm feeling like I need a little bit of self-care, if I need a little separation from the music environment. I'm not going to necessarily pick up the ukulele and practice it. I am going to be more likely to go back to the craft room and sew something or craft something out of paper or paint something. You don't have to not use music as part of your creativity routine, but hopefully the music that you're creating for yourself, that you're being creative with, isn't always for therapeutic purposes, because that's not being necessarily creative in a way that is self-care related, but is being creative in a way that is very professional and a good job, but not exactly what I would like for you to do as part of being creative and part of being a creative being outside of the music therapy world. At this point, you're going to take some time to develop 4 personal goals that address your creative style and multiple intelligence inventory results. And these goals need to include something you can do, something you can actively engage in that will enhance your therapeutic music experience development for your clients. So for example, I am very high with visual spatial intelligence. And so for me, a goal that would be good that will incorporate that visual spatial intelligence, will also incorporate my love of making things, might be, for the next 3 weeks, I am going to work on developing 2 brand new visual aids that I can use for therapeutic music experiences with a particular client. And what that does is it gives me a professional goal. It gives me an idea to take in that uses what I find interesting and what refreshes me and makes me happy, which is creating visual aids and visual products of some sort. And it also has a direct music therapy component to it, where my client is going to benefit from my creative style, my creative work. It could also be, I am going to spend time practicing the piano by myself, because that's going to then strengthen my ability to play piano for my clients in my music therapy clinic, excuse me. So develop 4 personal goals that address this creative style and multiple intelligent results, and put that on the worksheet. Again, you can pause this. I'm not going to play the ukulele this time. I'll spare you that. But you can pause this particular presentation right now to work on your goals. And now we're moving on. So one of the things that's important to understand and to know is that creativity is something that we practice. It's something that you have to practice, because if you don't practice it, then it gets rusty. You might not come up with new ideas. You might not have an opportunity to access that creativity when you need it in the moment. Creativity often has to be purposeful. You have to kind of understand that you are going into this process specifically to be creative and to make something new. So that way you can incorporate that into your self-care pattern and routine. Make creativity a part of your everyday experience for the next 3 weeks. Work on those personal goals. and make an effort to create something new or to take something and transform it into something new. You want to actively work towards your goals and adapt and adjust your goals during the process. You know, what I design right now may not necessarily make as much sense to me a week and a half from now, or I might accomplish a goal and need to adjust and adapt at that point, and that's okay. And then make sure that you adopt an attitude of there is no wrong way to create, because there is no wrong way to create. One of the things that was most frustrating for me as someone who was exploring my own creative side was that I was engaged in creative activity and would try to write a new song, and when it actually came to singing the new song with clients, it just didn't work with that particular group of clients. And so then I'd go back and I'd think, you know, I wasted all that time. It was quite a failure. I can't do this. I can't blah, 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 blah. You know, all the negative self-talk started. And I then had to adjust my thought process, because it wasn't that what I had created was wrong. It was that what I created maybe wasn't the best fit for that particular clientele at that particular time. And so I have learned not to discount my creative impulses and my creative products, but to use them, save them, and use them in other places in other ways. So adopt that attitude of there's no wrong way to create, and that'll take you a very, very long way forward in your creativity, in your creative process. When you are finished with your worksheet, your demonstration element is this worksheet completed. Please send it to contactus@musictherapyworks.com. At that point, I will send you a link within 48 hours. Please give me 2 days because it sometimes takes me a little while to catch up. But within that 48 hours, I will send you a link to the course evaluation. When you have finished that course evaluation, you are finished with the CMTE. When you have finished all of your course modules that you signed up for under the umbrella of composition and creativity, you'll receive a link to the course evaluation, which is the overall CBMT evaluation. And when you've completed that, you'll receive your certificate. I want to thank you for choosing musictherapyworks.com for your CMTE needs, and I hope that this composition and creativity aspect provides you with an idea and an opportunity to explore some of your own creative side, especially over the next 3 weeks as you're working on your goals. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to having you engage in some more of our course modules.